to a guided practice of the evolutionary Namaskar. What is that? So Namaskar means salutation, and you may have heard of that from the Surya Namaskar, or the sun salutation, or the Chandra Namaskar, or the moon salutation. And they all just have a little bit of a different pacing and a different flavor. One is more heating and active and solar based, like the sun, cool. One is more cooling and lunar, like the moon. And this one is based on your development or your evolution or evolutionary theory. And that kind of has two parts that inform it. One, that in the womb, you grew and developed from the head down. And then when you came out and you're like, oh world, the first thing that you did was try to find a source of food, breathe and try to find a source of food. And then the development started from your head, and you started lifting your head and looking around and trying to see where your caregivers are and move towards them, mostly with your mouth. And that's the beginning of how our bodies develop. And this is not like some people, this is all the people grow and develop that way. And so that is how our motor programming gets developed. So from the movements of the head, we start to be able to stabilize the head. And the cervical spine, although it needs to be mobile, first has to be stable. So this is your very beginning core development. The diaphragm moving, being able to breathe and feed, and then also start to stabilize your head as your caregivers are carrying you, hopefully, if they're good caregivers. And you're starting to learn to stabilize that head, and that is your deep core. And so if we kind of slowly and in a meditative way revisit these developmental milestones, from the first head movements to the first reaching movements to the moment where you just finally decide that you're going to push yourself up and balance on your arms, to when you think, maybe I could get all the way over there, and you come up onto your hands and knees and crawl and rock back and forth. So if you have any babies or children in your life, or have had any in your life, you could watch this happen and watch it take place and kind of see how fundamental to all of us it is. And so this salutation takes those developmental milestones and puts them into a flow sequence, just like the Surya Namaskar or the Chandra Namaskar is, so that you can, in this meditative way, revisit all of those places and feel where the kind of glitchiness is. And you'll feel it like, this side is way harder than the other side. So you'll start to be able to feel and recognize asymmetries physically that you have and weaknesses that you have. And so the movements are kind of binding you by the posture. So we're using the same kind of theories that we use in posture practice to really move in a way that's particularly sensitive and trying to discover what's going on inside of your body, that as a foundation of what posture practice is all about. And then now we're applying it to what is this movement pattern like for you? What is moving through this particular movement pattern like for you? And so as we go, I'll kind of be talking a little bit about each stage, but also not talking because it's a time for you to feel and a time for you to kind of learn in a way that's a little bit different than head knowledge and note taking and all those things which are good, but it's through direct experiential intimacy with doing. And that's what yoga really offers us as a different way of learning about how our body works. It's like not just that skeleton and not just those diagrams, but it's actually this experiential intimacy with your own body and how your body moves and functions and how your breath patterns mirror what's going on in your body. So I want to show you, to start, a few of the movements that will be kind of especially strange so that you can get a feel for that you're doing it right, even though it feels a little strange. So we'll move and spend a lot of time developing your breath at first, and then we'll move into doing some rolling and some head lifting first. And it's important to know that we lift our head right before we crawl. So all of the sequence is being informed by, I'm not going to go to that step before we've really visited and made clear this step. So each step builds the step we're going to next. And this roll, we really develop the eyes and the mouth, and the head goes with the hand, and the head is like initiating the action because the eyes wanting it and the head moving toward it, like I'm trying to put my mouth on my thumb. So this is a pretty strong neck action, and it's asking the neck to do quite a lot of stabilizing. So you may feel it's like, and that's common. So the movement will continue, and you'll keep trying to reach, and you'll kind of feel these like, I could not possibly go any further, so I'm going to push with my leg, but that's not what we're doing. We're keeping the legs totally relaxed. It's like you don't even know you have legs yet as far as your development goes. So reaching and lifting the head and not pushing with this arm until the movement rolls you over. Yay, baby rolled over. So this is a big milestone when there's the ability of the baby to go from tummy time to their back on their own, right? And then there's the way back, which also is really head initiated. And it's like you're trying to reach for your mom or the bottle she has, and you're trying to get it with your mouth. And so this is going to feel really odd. And for those of you that are teachers, the types of things that you'll see when you have people do these movements is a pushing back with the head or pushing down with the arms to go up, right? Which logically doesn't make any sense at all. Why would you go down to go up? So correcting this pattern to where they can go up and have the thoracic spine free enough to roll all the way over is going to have huge effects on everything down the chain alignment-wise. So when I'm working therapeutically with folks, like I know they want to do something more advanced than these simple, slow, really basic movements, but getting those movement patterns corrected make it so that when we start to visit warriors or scorpion or all the awesome things that your body can do, that the whole movement chain is kind of on board, that there's not dysfunctional patterns, that once we get into something really difficult in advance, say for example, a rotated warrior, right, where I'm reaching, well, if I don't have this mobility, then I'm going to just let all of this go to make it happen. And so none of the work is actually happening where it's intended to in the thoracic spine. Everything else is giving and going with it to make that happen. And so by visiting it on the floor, say in this creeping position, which was our first lunge, and reaching and building the mobility here, then the actual movement is happening in the thoracic spine. So then once we come up to standing, there's a felt awareness of, okay, well, the difference in feeling of turning my thoracic versus turning everything below, as you saw me in standing. Cool. So that's kind of the anatomical or the biomechanical part of why this sequence is what it is and kind of the intention behind it and how it got developed. The other part of it is that I'll be sort of presenting it as though it's this process of rebirth for you. So once we get into the class, I'm going to really work hard not to give a lot of physical instructions or talk a whole lot. I'm just going to give you the actions to take in your body. Shut up. So that you can feel in your body what that's like. And this idea of making it a rebirth is that when we start flat on the ground, there's not like a preconceived notion of what it's like to be here. There's this total openness, just like you just came out of the womb and you're just still in your little incubator here. And you're going to start taking these movements in such a way where you can experience them like it's the first time, like you don't already know. And you don't have to know. And so anytime that you get into thinking like, oh, I wonder if my knee's in the right position, or is she going to come by here and, touch me, or, whatever could be going through your head. Every time that happens, you trade that thought for feeling and sensation over and over and over again, trading thought for feeling and direct experience, because the movements will be simple and they'll be slow and they'll be gentle and soft. And all those qualities will be what my tone presents and what my pacing presents, so that you can embody that kind of juicy newness of being fresh out of the womb. And then from, we'll say, a spiritual standpoint, this idea of going back to the beginning again and again and again, or cultivating beginner's mind, where you don't already know everything about yoga, and that's good and okay. But you know how to practice. You know how to hold your space and hold your attention in one space, which is a big part of what we're trying to cultivate in our yoga practice, so that you can learn through direct experience of your own body. And so we kind of want to learn yoga how we learn a lot of other things, but you can't learn it like that. You have to only learn it by just repetition and doing, and coming back to that idea of, I don't know. I wonder if I can feel. I wonder if I can stay curious for a whole 90 minutes and just feel what it's like in my body again and again. And every time I pop back into knowing, I can just be like, I'm doing that again. Let me come back into sensation. So all my cues will be inviting you into sensation and out of thought or mental constructs about what we're doing. Anybody have any questions? Sense enough? Okay. So as I showed you in the demo, there'll be lots of lateral movement. So we won't necessarily, we'll be kind of in the area of your mat. Your mat will be like your home base kind of, but don't let that limit you with the way that you're moving. If you want to spread out more, if you want to lose the mat at any point because it's getting tangled up in what we're doing, all of that is fine and good. But I've seen many a Stanley go down from a leg roll, so I just clear your way in preparation for that. Okay, so we'll start in this first position where your head is turning some kind of way, your legs are back behind you, and your arms are in goalpost. And there, I think I briefly mentioned this. It's kind of the introduction to a therapeutic approach. And part of that is this deep and undistracted self-attending. So we won't have music because the listening and all of the capacity for your listening is to go towards your own body. So it can kind of be uncomfortable here at first on the belly, so any adjustments that feels like you need to make to kind of have the shoulders broad and the hands relaxed. And then begin to bring attention to your breath, and we'll spend quite a lot of time developing the breath because this is the first thing that baby does. And so the effort here is to bring the breath in and also down. So this action of bringing the breath down is to cue the diaphragm, which is the first core muscle, to move as far down as we can. And there's an ability to retrain the diaphragm and a pattern to the diaphragm, just like everything else. So as you breathe here, you're sort of just listening for the pattern through sensation. And this way of breathing, again, is kind of in a little bit of a different flavor or style than how you may be used to practicing asana. So the breath is totally silent. And the exhale is a passive phenomenon. So we'll just release ujjayi or any of that for now to just experience kind of this open and soft, quiet breath. And then in this position, become aware of gravity as a force that's acting upon you. See if you can feel gravity as a force, and see if you can surrender to that force so that there's absolutely no resistance to just your weight being totally surrendered. And it's just you and your breath in and down. And then we'll bring a specific and special mouth position into place that is mimicking that mouth position of your initial eating. And this helps to kind of begin that patterning that we're doing, this openness and this kind of tone of being new. So that position is the tongue flat and broad on the roof of your mouth, and the teeth slightly parted as though you were going to accept a straw to take a drink, and the lips closed. And then, as though you were kind of sucking through a straw, between the tongue and the roof of the mouth, create a gentle vacuum that's also pretty effortless. And so it may take a little while to find a way to make that action of the mouth feel totally easy, but also happening actively. So there'll be lots of attention to your senses and direction of your senses throughout class as a support for trading thought for feeling. And so each time you go into analysis of, see if you can return to curiosity and sensation. Keep the mouth position in place and turn your head the other direction. And you may just notice from one side to the other if there is a side that's harder to turn towards. And that is kind of our initial screen. And then actively see the backs of the eyes. If your eyes are closed or if your eyes are open, just actively see what you're seeing. So there's attention to seeing the backs of the eyes or what you're seeing, as well as bringing breath in and also down, and gently maintaining the mouth position. And now I'll sort of begin this time where it's as though we're taking this ceremonial action of being reborn. And this represents bringing yourself into this newness of your experience, as though you're seeing for the first time and tasting for the first time and hearing your own breath for the first time. And I'll just use the sound of a whistle to sort of signify that we're moving into a sacred space. Maintaining those actions of the senses, begin to lift your head and look over your left shoulder and set your head down. And keep going with that flow of movement. And as you lift your head and set it down, lead with your eyes as though you were trying to look up and see. So your eyes are leading the way and are part of the action. And then feel sensitively for what corresponding or compulsive actions might happen in the legs or the hands to help with the lift of the head. And keep the movement slow and your sense of hearing directed towards your breath and your body. And see if between each repetition you can set your head down fully and take the next repetition as though it were totally fresh. Again, like the very beginning of the beginning. And this may be the first experience of what I mentioned as kind of this glitchiness that happens in our patterns. And so just by taking the action in this way and working the pattern, you'll be developing your motor control. Okay, good. Next time that you lift your head, hold your head up and see if you can look a little further with your eyes and lift your head a little more without pressing into the arms, and hold. And then as you set your head down, turn your head the other direction. And place your head down and relax completely. And breathe in and down. And then connect with the mouth position if you lost it in movement, and the active seeing of the eyes. And see if on this side you can stay with the very beginning of the movement. So take your first head lift really slowly and lift as though you were trying to feel each phase of the movement, the lifting, the moving, and the end, as though you don't know what it's going to be like. Like you're new to this. Next time that you lift, lift and hold, and see if you can move with the neck even a little more strongly. So to lift, like your eyes are just trying to see something that's just beyond their ability. And then set your head down so slow, so controlled, and so completely. Very good. Take your right arm out to the right and your left arm up overhead. And then begin to lift the hand and look with your eyes at the hand. And as you inhale, lift, and as you exhale, lower. And let it be just an exploration of this range of motion. Head lifts and hand lift. And it's as though you're trying to put your mouth on your thumb. There's so much head action that's going to be the driver of the lift. And here you may notice more desire to push in the legs or in the hand. Just try to stay within the range that doesn't lead to any of those compensatory movements. And it's usually more head than you think. So like your eyes are trying to reach up and back. Good. And next time you lift to whatever is your maximum hold there, and see if you can lift a little higher, a little more head, more strongly with the neck. See if you can reach into the back space even more. So take note, this is something like what your thoracic mobility is like. So this is, again, another screen. And then on the exhale, set your head down and your arm down so completely. Good, and take a breath in and down, and just let what you discovered or what the sensations of your body are be like they're allowed to settle. Not to be thought about, but to be felt deeply. And switch sides with your arms and your head. And now we'll discover the difference. So as you get there, lift the head and the arm and continue with that flow on this side. So some things that you might notice is that the glutes really grip up, or they're trying to do the action. See if you can keep the lower body totally passive. So it's here in these really soft and low to the ground places that we can actually get a felt awareness around the way that your quote unquote tightness or inflexibility is kind of manifesting in your movement pattern. And more neck than you think, and more eyes than you can have kind of previously thought of as a driver of your movement. And so this sort of work, if I have people with neck pain or low back pain, is where I go, because we've got to mobilize the thoracic so that the lumbar can be stable. Okay, lift and to your capacity, more head. Remember your mouth position and your eyes, and try to put your mouth on your thumb and keep going and keep going. See if you can get a roll all the way over. So just see what you have to do. Get it over to your back. So you'll feel where those sticking points or those glitchy points are. And all of that is for you. Good. And then when you get to your back, give it all up. Good job. Yay. Okay. And then the way over is a reach up and across. And so you're trying to get back the same way you came. And this is where the head lift feels a little odd. So lift and reach towards your head, up, up, up. Good, and your legs will want to press. Keep trying to get your mouth on your thumb. And it's kind of a flop when you get there. Good. And switch sides. And relax completely, breath in and down. So as you're moving, you can feel where you run into those sticking points. And so you can pause there and take a breath and see if you can kind of move past it with control, or you can come down, relax all the way, and try to take another repetition. So we'll have a little bit of time to roll over and back with the right side here. So you can either work the range of motion without compensation, or just sort of see what it's like a few times to roll over and back. So reach with the hand, lift with the head. Good. Good, and then make your way back. Reach and lift, head. Great job. Okay, so back on your belly. Bring the arms back out to goalposts, and turn your head to whichever side it's harder to turn towards. So whichever feels like a little bit more of a strain, turn that way. And revisit your mouth position. And just sort of breathe into the floor, in and down. Good. And next we'll move into being propped up on the elbows. So bring your forehead down, and you may kind of smash your nose doing this, but you're just extending through the back of the nose with the head down. And here, look up as high as you can. So lift the head and look up, and then exhale, place your head down, and move in that way a few times. Inhale, head lifts, and you look all the way up. And kind of find what's available without pushing into the hands, and then come all the way down. Next time you lift your head up, keep it up, and then look to the right and over your shoulder. Without force. Good, and back to center and down. And then inhale, your head lifts again, and look over the left shoulder. And then back to center and down. And this is your flow, side to side, lift, and look over the shoulder and down, and then switch sides. So again, this is another time to become intimate with your own movement through deep feeling. And eyes lead the way as you're looking over one side or the other. So you may feel action starting to happen in the upper shoulders, even from the movement of your head and neck. It can be a little bit active. Good. Next time you bring your head down, set it down and relax completely. And just notice as you breathe in and down the effects of this work on the neck. Good. Lift the head and look up towards me. We'll begin to now lift the head and then walk the arms underneath to prop up on the elbows. So the elbows right underneath the shoulder. Good. And then you can either bring the arms up overhead or out, but that will be our next little flow. Walking one at a time, the hands under the shoulders, and then back down. And the next time that you're propped up, hold. And then we'll move into a creeping position. So we'll turn the head and look over the shoulder at the same time as bring the knee up as close to the elbow as you can. And so this may be where you start to feel some response in your low back. If the low back is cranky, then you'll come back to center and to the other side. So the elbows now are stabilized, and the elbows and the arms are to stay stable as your neck and hips mobilize. So as best you can, keep the swaying side to side out of the upper body. And so you're kind of sliding the knee on the floor. And if it acts up in the low back or you feel pain, just stop and come down. The next time you're turned in a way where you can best see me, pause. So we'll be up with the head turned and the knee turned. The next step is to lift and reach. So that roll comes with us, and you're now trying to lift and like prop yourself up, like even come up onto your knee and the inside edge of the other knee, like you're trying to get something, and then come back down, switch sides, and then reach. So the tendency will be to have this dropping in the shoulder happen. You're going to keep pushing the floor away, and then you can lift up a little bit, and this begins to bring online the low core and some deeper activations of the core. Good, so this is how the core development started. And so you may feel, again, some of those glitches or the places where you want to compensate, and that's showing to you in this gentle way where to work, where to build stability and strength, and where to build mobility. Good. Next time that you reach to one side and are reaching up, pause there in the reach and see if you can lift the hips a little more, find a little more reach and hold. And then exhale, come down, go to the other side. Lift and reach and hold. You really want it. Whatever's just past your hands, you really want it with your eyes. You're going to get your mouth on it. Reach a little higher, and then exhale, come down. Take your leg back behind you and walk your arms back out to the side. Bring your head down. Breathe in and down. Feel gravity acting upon you and surrender to it. Trade thought for feeling. Don't think about your body, be with your body. Good. Lift and turn the head to the other side. Okay, now baby is really ready to get moving, crawling. So we'll make our way there. Bring your elbows back under your shoulders again to prop up. Good. And then for the first few times, I'll just let you sort of see how you do it. So in some way, come to all fours. Good. And then back down. So this movement from belly on the floor up to crawling, it's like as big of a deal as like the first fish that decided it should come out of the water, you know? So this lifting of the spine is a big milestone, and baby crawling is a big place because of how much more core development it takes. So try exploring some other ways to get there. So maybe your foot comes first and then your hands come. Or maybe your hands come first and then your feet come. So try to explore all the different ways that you might get up there. And then also the ways that you get down. So therapeutically with folks, once we get past the neck, once we get the shoulders going, then it's this core development that gets us into stable crawling. And so if you're having low back pain or sacral things, this is maybe where it shows up, where there's too much mobility happening in the sacrum as you're trying to navigate your limbs up to float your spine in space. Amazing. Really great job. So you may notice I'm not giving you lots of explicit instruction or alignment cues because we don't give babies alignment cues. You know some way to get there. And by working all of the different ways, working lots of different mobility patterns. Okay, come up to crawling and pause and crawling. And bring your feet hip distance apart and your knees are hip distance apart too. So your feet and knees are kind of in the same line. And then send the hips back towards the heels and see if you can get the forehead down. And then inhale, rock up. And then move back down. So that is added to our flow. We're coming up. And then rocking back. So this shape that we often call child's pose is a deep squat form also. So baby's preparing to get on those legs. If you start to have any sort of agitation or frustration come up, just lie flat for a little bit and take a few breaths. It's frustrating for baby to learn to crawl. So just allow some space for whatever comes up. Next time that you come up to all fours, pause there. We'll now bring the right leg up to the outside of the feet and take the right leg back and bring the left leg up. Good. And then once you've done about 2 of those each side, add that to the rest of the flow. So come back down and see if now you can come back down through creeping intentionally. So you'll come onto your elbows, your legs will come out to the side, you'll lower down. And then on the way up, that one is much more difficult. So you're trying to lift the knee and bring it up under. Good. Next time you find yourself in all fours, pause there and look towards me. So now we'll develop crawling a bit. There's cross crawling and same side crawling. So we'll start with the cross crawl. So if you want to kind of scoot towards the back of your mat, or you can crawl off your mat. So we'll start, and there's an effort to kind of take the side to side swaying actions out of the crawl. So right hand, left leg moves forward 1. Left hand, right leg. And then you're trying to set the hand and the knee down at the exact same moment. And once you come some amount forward, then do the same thing backward. So we're looking for lots of control throughout where the hand and foot placement are happening. Really good. And then pause where you are. Let your knees come wide and your toes come towards each other. Rock back. See if you can bring your head to the ground or your hand to your head to your hands. Rest there. So wide knees and breath in and down. Good job. If you've lost your mouth position, bring that back into place and notice what happens in the nostrils. Okay, and when you're ready, rock up. And we'll try same side crawling. So right arm, right leg move forward. Good, and left. Good. So then once you get that pattern down, how much control can you have throughout the movement? So you could probably feel how much core development is available here with stabilizing actions. Good. Crawl one more time up to the front of your mat, towards the front of your mat. Pause. And we'll move to the next phase where the baby doesn't squat down first. Baby pulls themselves up from a squat. So we'll go right hand by right hand, foot, right foot by right hand, left foot by right hand, and then reach up, pull up. Good. Lower yourself back down. Place the hands, step back, and we'll go all the way back down now. Hands come down, all the way back down to your belly. So now that's your next flow. Hands lifts, arms come under. You're going to get all the way back up from the way we came. Foot up, other foot up, butt drops. You got to hold a table leg, your mom's skirt, something. And then there's an action to pull up. Good, and then lower down and keep moving in this way. Notice if you're coming up with the same side leg every time, and try to use the other leg. And slow is the sensitive way here, so that's where you'll feel all the little micro movements or glitches. And if you find yourself tired, just rest and feel your belly on the ground, feel gravity acting upon you. That's how you know you're doing it well. Is that you can feel that there's an outside force also. See if now that the movements have gotten bigger, if you can still keep that openness and that curiosity that we cultivated at the very beginning to like, how can I do this? So all the information is for you. Which places do you rush through? Which places do you avoid? Where do you move into habit? And rest is always available. Let's take a rest together. Everybody's on their belly, both legs back behind you. Head can be turned or straight down. Try to make space across the shoulders. Again, surrender to gravity, holding you to the ground. Breath in and down. Mouth position in place. Active seeing of the backs of the eyelids. And each time you notice yourself in thought or worse, judgment, return to feeling. Surrender to the now of the body. So this salutation is not a set sequence. So it's not this way, this one way that I've taught you it every single time. There's infinite routes to get there. And so I'll walk you through another route, step by step, and then again free you into movement to explore the ways that you go naturally and explore the areas of both strong function and where there's weakness or immobility. Before we move to that, do any of you have any questions about what you've experienced or felt? Okay. Breath in and down. See if you can keep all the movement of breath low in the body to where there's even a response at the pelvic diaphragm, but very little to no movement in the clavicle shoulder area. And just notice how your back responds to that way of breathing. So we're training the pattern of the diaphragm to move down as a unit and to relax on the way up. So the exhale, again, in this way, is passive and silent. And your ears are open to hear your breathing, to hear my voice, and open to listening to the sounds that come from the body. So that means the grumbles and the pops and the clicks, they're not wrong. They're your body's way of talking. You're doing it right. Allow the head to be really heavy. Feel gravity acting upon you. Okay, we'll do a little clearing and another type of roll. So bring both arms up overhead and lift your right leg back behind you, just high enough to clear the left leg. So you lift the right leg up and cross it over, over. And now the leg is the driver of what will roll you from your belly to your back. So it's kind of a flop once you get there. Good. And in this case, the upper body is what's really heavy. And now lift the right leg high enough to clear the left again, cross over. Again, feel it as the driver of the roll, but the upper body is super passive. Good. And then take that the other way. So again, take this roll with that open curiosity. Good. Keep the legs straight, so don't bend at the knee. Good, and take another trip over and back each way with the leg. And as you go, see if you can really feel any limiting areas and take it really slow through those places where you feel, say, a stretch in the front of the hip or the back, or even all the way up into the shoulder, the chest. So these infant rolls, we call them, are redeveloping the X pattern and are the foundation of all other movement that comes after it. So sensitively feeling where the hands want to push, where the opposite leg pushes, upper body's totally heavy. Embrace the flop.
Understand why babies grunt so much.
Mm-hmm. They're feeling it deep in there, just like you. Good job. Okay, we'll finish up back on the belly after both sides again. Good. Okay, we'll bring the elbows underneath the shoulders to prop up. Slide the right leg out to the right. Turn towards the right, bend the knee, come to that creeping position. Good. And then kind of envisioning that what you want is up and just past your reach. Take that lift again. Then come back down. And now you're going to like really go for it. Now we'll move to that sliding the knee in and bringing the hands up. And then you'll also here in the crawling position, reach for it. Good, and then come back down. You couldn't quite get it, so you're going to rock back and rock forward and see if you can bring that leg out to the right, the left leg. And then come up and reach forward again. Nope, still not quite there. Come back down, bring the other leg up, reach up, pull up. Good, and then reach up and back forward again. Good, and back down to center. Lower yourself down. You got it, good job. And then come back down in the same way we came up. So knee comes out to the side, back down all the way. Leg will come behind you, and we'll take an infant roll on that same side with the arm. Roll over and back. Good, remember head up to lift you over onto the belly, and then others. And then we'll come to the other side, so elbows come up to prop and your left knee comes out to the left. And there you'll press and reach and lift. Oh, I can't get it. Back down. Elbows, hands go where your elbows were, knees slide in. Now reach again. Still not quite there. Bring a leg up. Come up, reach again. Back down. Come to a squat, pull up. You can bring a hand to the heart as you reach again. Good, lower yourself back down. Hands come down. Both legs back behind you, left arm out to the left. Now an infant arm roll on the left, over and back. Okay, so this is now your Namaskar. your flow. Again, on the right side, kind of reaching in each one of those foundations. And remember that the head turning and the wanting it with the eyes is a part of what's going to get your mobility and strength. Good, so elbows prop under, right knee comes out to the right. Reach, lift the hips up, reach. Find that low belly come online. Maybe you could get it. Reach a little more. Good, and then come down. Put the hands where the elbows were, come up to those knees. Good. Take a cross crawl backwards. Good. And then bring your left foot up and take another reach. Good. And come all the way up off your hand. Reach. So you're in a half kneeling. Good. Then back down. Step the other foot up to squat. Reach up. Pull yourself up. Good. And then lift and reach for it. You got it. Pull it in. Bring it to your heart. Then go back down. Very good. Good, so I won't give cues on the next side. Take an infant roll on that same side, on the right. And then back to the belly. And then part of how baby learns is to just struggle through it. You know, there's really no way around it. So bring the elbows to prop, and then bring the leg out to the side, reach, and then continue on through the Namaskar, reaching at each of those foundations. Good. And we'll meet back on the belly. Heavy, feeling gravity act upon you. And then we'll take a leg roll each way. So the leg lifts just high enough to clear the opposite. And you cross it over, reach the leg back until there's a flop. And then take it back the other way. Good. And then once you come to your belly, just roll over onto your back on your mat. So you'll kind of flip yourself more like a pancake than an infant roll. And as you come onto your back, extend the legs long and bring your palms face up next to your sides. And we'll do some pranayama. So maintain the mouth position that we've established and keep bringing breath in and down so that there's more movement happening low than in the chest. And we're sort of exaggerating that action to sort of feel if you could have the breathing diaphragm at the mid-torso move down in a way that creates responsiveness at the pelvic diaphragm. And then moves up the body from there. And the mouth seal is hopefully allowing breath to flow in and out of the nose in a soft, quiet way. And your eyes are still conscious of seeing, whether they're open or closed. And your ears are open to listen to my voice and past my voice to hear your own body. So listen to the pattern of your own breath or the rhythm of your own breath. How long is the inhale? Where are there pauses or jerks or that same kind of glitch that you felt in the body that happens inside the breath? And just attend each breath in and also down. Continue to trade thought for feeling. And let your body receive all the information from the movement. So a long, hard day in the life of a baby developing, they rest easy and sleep deep. So let gravity act upon you and rest. But stay here in the room, in sensation. Breath is in and down. And smooth and silent. Stay here. Stay with your body, with your breath. Attention softly on the self. Again, trade thought for feeling. And feel gravity acting on your body from this posture. And your active surrender to it. So you're not checking out, you're checking in and relaxing deeply. It's not passive, it's active. And we'll sort of return to our senses or stay in the senses and return your attention outward in a specific way. So you've been feeling deeply internally. Slowly begin to open your eyes and let light in the eyes, but keep your attention deeply inward. And as you open your eyes, you'll see the ceiling and allow your vision to be wide so that you could also see the periphery and the sides of the room, but keep yourself within that. See if even you can see some of your own body. So keep yourself within your attention and allow your senses to also move out to be aware of the whole room and this wide vision. And look with your eyes to the right, and then look with just your eyes to the left. And again to the right, and then the left. And then back to fixed on the ceiling and wide vision, seeing the periphery. As though maybe you could also see the torso rise and fall with breath, or your hands out to the side, or some part of yourself. And then also see your feet through feeling your feet, and notice that maybe feet previously weren't in your awareness. So keep feet, hands, crown of the head in your awareness, as well as seeing wide and into the room. Maintain the mouth position that we visited and actively taste your mouth. Like really, like is there a flavor to your mouth? Sweet, salty, bitter, pungent, astringent. Maybe nothing. And then, as though you've been reborn, as though, again, movement is totally new, take your first movements and just sort of see what you do, roll to one side, and in some way come up to a seated position. So after all of those developmental milestones, then we get ideas about how we should sit, and be like a yogi. So you can take your yogi posture now, whatever that is. And something that I've come to understand as the disposition of a yoga practitioner or a yogi is someone who is open to life like it's an experiment. Like you're not here to take on this as a belief or in a dogmatic way, but to experience it and then be able to report what that's like. So everything is data. It's no longer personal. It's about quality and observation and noticing. And so an important part of your yoga practice is to make conscious what was previously unconscious. And so we do a physical practice, and then it's good to make some sort of report, whether it's just in your journal or to yourself. What did I learn? What did I get from all of that data collection that I might have more information about how my body moves and how I go? So we did a lot of movements, and hopefully somewhere in there you like notice something about how you move or what's habitual. And so we'll just take a moment to go around and have a chance to just speak to that, because you might notice that this is different than, I didn't give a lot of alignment cues. I let you do everything the way that you did it so that you could learn about the way that you did it. And to me, that's really what defines what makes something yoga therapy versus yoga. Yoga is a vast, broad subject. So vast and so broad, it can include nearly anything, apparently. And and that's fine. What makes it therapeutic is when it's about you. Whenever I, as a practitioner, or whoever's a practitioner, is seeing you individually and helping you learn using yoga about you. And so you learning about you is what will have the therapeutic value of it. I can distinctly remember at certain points in my practice being like, I'm going to pop in one of these poses and I'm going to have it figured out, right? There's going to be something that this warrior unlocks, but it's not like that. It's this sort of slow unfolding. It's mushier, like this, like this sequence was kind of schmoosh, right? It's different than alignment-based asanas, because there's room for you to explore how you're doing it. And so I'd love to hear what you noticed. That's kind of the general prompt. What did you notice about your own body and how you moved through those postures? We'll start to the left because I'm kind of making this like a circle.
Something that was very, I guess surprising. We obviously do a lot of yoga here, but when you were when we were on our belly and you're like, lift your leg up without bending your knee, I couldn't do it because my posterior is so weak. I had to bend my knee in order to roll over
to get to lessen the weight. That was
yeah. And I mean now my back pain makes more sense. With the I think we're so front body focused when we do a lot of yoga. Maybe there's an imbalance or something.
Well, this is sort of representative of the conscious, and this is sort of representative of the unconscious, right? Because we don't see all of that. And so there is a lot of back body involved in that lift. So when you're lifting the leg, it's butt that lifts the leg. And something that you'll find is that head wants to lift the leg, or arm wants to lift the leg, and all those other things. So just taking it down to this little movement and getting that down to where that's really easy, that butt's on and you can lift the leg, and then crossing it over and just doing the movement. So each of these movements are screens and correctives. So they help me see what is going on with movement patterns. And by repeating that movement, it corrects that movement pattern. So whatever you felt that you couldn't do today, do it. Yeah. Good. It's good noticing. Yeah. And the sacral joint is a stable joint, and it's the glutes that really stabilize that. So thinking about your back lifts having lots of glute action will help stabilize the sacrum. And that's just a general kind of recommendation. I'd have to see movement patterns to know exactly in a very focused way. Yeah, good. How about you? What did you notice?
Similar in what she said, but and I know as my age and as I have aged, I've lost strength. That's what I really work on. But I also have lower back pain. So when I was going through that initially, first couple times, it was today's not a great day, it's not a horrible day, but I feel it. So then trying to resist doing it a different way just to relieve that pain.
Yeah.
I would it's hard for me.
So
it's natural to try and avoid that pain.
Yeah, and that's what we do. That's why we develop compensation patterns so brilliantly. It's amazing. But it's so getting this strength going of the front body, and then the rotational ability of the thoracic. So you can do the rotations with your knee out like this to help stabilize the lower back as you're doing them. And you can treat that roll kind of like a stretch. So here I'm just at the end range of that to really work the thoracic rotation, because that's something I saw in your movement, is that the thoracic is limited. And so what happens when the thoracic is limited and we try to rotate, actually the lumbar rotates to take the load of what can't happen here, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So repeating those infant rolling movements will really help. And, you know, it kind of has changed what my yoga space looks like, because that little damn mat's not going to work anymore because I'm just rolling off it anyway. So I've kind of gone matless for the most part, or a big double wide is what I call it. And so that's kind of allowing for more lateral movement, which is, you know, I love this sequence because it's like someone took all the asanas that we were all doing and kind of saw what was missing from them, or saw what is not in those movements that is a part of the way we need to move. And then especially because our culture is this way, there has to be so much emphasis on those back movements. I mean, I would say 80% of the people that I work with therapeutically, it's like, all right, here we are. We're going to get that back strengthened so that the thoracic can roll and rotate. How about you, Katie? What did you notice?
The opposite of what they noticed. And focus on keeping my glutes strong, because I know yoga stretches that post chain constantly, and we don't fire it the way we should. So I make a very concentrated effort to keep my glutes and my hammies and all that strong. So using the legs was very easy, very natural. I mean, that happened
for the roll.
Yes, but then the arms, especially that left side, was like locked here.
Yeah.
Like the heat, the sweat, all of a sudden it's like, are you kidding? I'm stuck. I'm not going to go. And then it was almost like, you know, you start talking to everything starts communicating. It's like, okay, I understand what you want. Okay, you can have it. Here we go. But I was surprised at the amount of effort that took to do that. That was extraordinarily challenging for me the first few times. Then muscle memory kind of kicks in and your mind says, okay, we'll work together. We'll do this.
Yeah.
But that was a big surprise at how difficult that was. Plus, you know, this is an area of challenge for me. My low back is incredibly mobile. My thoracic spine, not so much. So that was what I noticed. Yeah,
so those upper body rolls, and even incorporating those actions into different flows where you're rotating the thoracic and standing, or that way that we kind of reached, is, you know, you can take the same flows that you're doing and just add those rolls or those reaches to get the thoracic rotation. But it helps to have that lower body in a stable position so that it doesn't compensate. But what you were speaking to about kind of being able to just stay with it, that's sort of the fruit of no matter what you're practicing, you're gaining all of this awareness to be able to when you realize a pattern has dysfunction in it, to quickly kind of get that pattern grooved in. And then what you spoke to is like, oh, once I have that muscle memory, it's easy. But if you've never moved in that way, you're going to unconsciously keep avoiding moving in that way. So that's why the kind of postures, locking certain things down to rotate other things, really reveals a lot about what's happening. So good noticing.
Fun fact, my chiro had me do the exact same, that knee out, this action. I herniated disc in my neck last year, and rolling over in bed. He had me do that, and I remember as soon as you did that, I was like, oh, I've been here before.
Yeah. And then getting that lift developed, it's really a good way to retone the low abdomen, which a lot of folks that come to yoga are like, get here. and it has to happen with such baby movement to get the muscles back on board, that this developmental sequence really helps with that.
Loved it.
Cool.
Hated it and loved it.
Yeah, right. It's like that. It's like, duh. How about you?
I noticed a few things. The first time we brought the right knee up, you like almost instantly were like, if something pinches, be careful. And like I had just felt a pinch like in the low right side as soon as I brought that up. And like after one or two of the reps, it went away. Similar to Katie, the left side, for some reason, I was just like, I'm not going to be able to go any further. Like the lifting of the head super simple. But then as soon as we added the look in the arm, and I was just like, oh my God, like what is happening right now?
It feels so weird.
Yeah, and then I actually felt like I was able to do that lift easier than I thought I would have been able to do. So I don't know if I'm over engaging there and that's causing something in the back. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I also have noticed like I feel like I'm really mobile down in this area and not so much through here.
Yeah.
But my neck is fine. I think it's this mid chunk.
Yeah, so the thoracic rotation. And so there's kind of a therapeutic principle and a kind of also a spiritual principle that we talk about at the place that I learned this sequence and do teacher training at, is as above, so below. And so when there's a problem area, we're looking above and below that problem area to find where we might solve what's going on in the middle. So if there's, nothing going on, when you had that pinch in the low back, it probably has to do with hip mobility because it was bringing that out to the side. So if nothing's shown, do you have pain showing up anywhere? Just that low back?
That low right.
Yeah, so.
And then the right up here.
So those infant rolls, all the ways will really help with the posterior in general. But so if there's something going on, we look above and below that for where we might correct to create the stability that's needed there. Really cool. Good insight. So in general, infant rolling is a great corrective for everything that's been mentioned here, and is a great way, like if you come in for class, just do a few of them as a warm-up. We kind of never know what to do, so we all just like go like this or something when we come into class, but you could work those patterns and that will act as a corrective before you move into whatever asanas you're doing in class so that you can remember all these particular activations and those kind of weak points that you want to hold your attention on during class. Any other questions or anything else someone would like to share about their experience?
Was there anything else you saw that was weird in my movements?
In the first head movements, there did look like a little bit of kind of that pattern figuring out. So I would spend a little more time with the head turns to get it to where those are super smooth and controlled the whole way. It's kind of like just a little like wobble in the head that happens when you're first working those patterns. And so getting the neck strength on board, another way to do it is just like barely lifting the head here. You might even try that now. That will really build the strength and stability of the cervical spine. And because if you get here and lift, you might find other places that are trying to do it, but it's also like less lift than you think. So come about halfway down from that, but still keep lifted there.
It's like my shoulders are wanting to do it for me.
Yeah, right. So that's what's been doing the load of the head. So if you keep the shoulders soft and just keep the head lifted, so you're kind of moving against gravity in that very specific way. Can you see the little movement of his head? That's just like, woo. So once that gets stabilized, it's like it's waking up the whole deep core. So when that corrective really happens, it's like, wow, so many other things can change. But until that happens, almost everything else is a compensation in a way for that deepest strength. Does that make sense? You'd like to be able to for it to be like no problem for as long as you needed to. Another really good movement is a McGill crunch, and that's where you're kind of working the whole core and the head in that way, and the butt is on, and you're just learning to brace the whole abdomen in this way, where the spine is aligned. And being able to hold that position for like 3 minutes, 5 minutes is is kind of a strength standard.
I know I'm very body aware. I was surprised how often I cheated. I kept catching myself cheating in the little things. Mm-hmm. About the boots, I'm like, she's talking to me.
Well, it's not conscious, right? That it's like, it's amazing adaptability, that has happened over time. And when it comes to your awareness, it is sort of like, huh? I've been doing what? But it's brilliant cheating. There's no wrong way. And so something that happens if we get an injury, automatically there's going to be compensation patterns that come into place. And so revisiting this sequence kind of can help reset those original motor patterns in place. And so it's kind of a lifelong thing. And you can hopefully see a little bit of the sun salutation inside of it. You know, you're getting up and going down, and instead of a chaturanga, we're moving through some things that are a little bit pre-chaturanga strength, right? So being able to stabilize the shoulder girdle in stillness needs to happen before you can stabilize the shoulder girdle doing this press up. So if you don't feel stable, super stable here to where you can reach in all directions without this happening, then chaturanga is probably going to strain the shoulder until you've developed that stability.
The same side crawling was weird.
Yeah, it is super weird.
I was like,
yeah, and so the stability of the crawl and all of that movement, you know, really can get worked in dead bug variations. So you're getting all of that strength happening where the limbs are functioning separate, but all of this is staying the same. So that when you come up and you're reaching, basically, you know, the spine's not shifting and not all of this stuff is happening, but there's this center line stability. So crawling foundation is another place that I work a lot of people in their core strength. And you see the same things in the crawl, like that glitchiness and where the weakness happens. And so you'll be able to kind of see that in your students a little bit more too. Well, like, oh, okay, we just need to take it closer to the ground. And so this is like a way where, you know, we didn't need any props. We didn't need to like add support from underneath because the ground is the support. And until you can get up without needing the support of the ground and stabilize the spine, we don't bring the floor up to you to like take away those compensation patterns. We just go back down, train there until that's corrected, and then come up to more complexity. And that's a therapeutic approach so that we're not bypassing what's causing the pain, basically. Which is easy to do because pain sucks. So I mentioned briefly that I am a teacher trainer and that this sequence happens at the Circle Yoga Shala, but that is kind of found where I learned a therapeutic approach, and the 300-hour training is the kind of introduction of the therapeutic approach. So it's not for becoming a yoga therapist, but it lays the foundation to where you can teach therapeutic style group classes or work one-on-one with someone in a smart way, that you're not taking them beyond, you know, what they're coming to you for. Because really when you're working one-on-one, it's about that person's goal. But often they kind of are like, my doctor told me to do yoga, or I don't know what I need, you know, or I'm desperate, help me. So, you know, this really kind of helped me have some information behind my choices that, okay, yes, I can see that there's a shoulder mobility problem, but maybe just sending them into a bunch of, extension isn't really going to solve that. Maybe actually it needs to happen in correspondence with all of those other patterns to really be healed and corrected and the movements integrated. So it's a patterns, not parts approach, and a function, not form approach. So there's nothing about, I didn't say your shape should look exactly like this, right? I was telling you what actions to take and what forms to move through, so that there's not this something that happens in yoga is an obsession with the shapes and the outer form. And so it's just like, no, forget all of that. It's about this deep inner experience and this sensitivity. So it's a good way to go if you're a yoga nerd like me. And then I also have online programs where I teach these teach yoga essentially from what I see to be the very beginning, because sometimes what happens to us is in the same way as with this movement, you don't ever visit these really slow, low to the ground places. You come into a class and you're like, well, I guess this is yoga. This is what we're doing. And it's kind of haphazard what you might learn. And so I wanted to sort of take this approach where if you really wanted to establish a practice for yourself and know kind of what that means, that there was a step-by-step way to do that. And so those programs and one-on-one work you can find at jamiesweer.com, which is my name. And if you'd like to join my email list, I'll have a little clipboard that you can do that on. And it's really great to meet those of you that I haven't met, and I'm happy to see you and practice with you. And I hope to see you again. Namaste.
Namaste.
Yeah.
That went by really fast.
It did.
Yeah, I know. How long was it? So I